Okay, welcome to the patch 25.10. This is going to be the release of Brawl, and we're going to have some changes, mainly for jungle, support position, and also some buffs to some scaling champions, as per se. Some really questionable changes as well, but we'll see how this one goes because we are going to have a lot of AP items being changed. So Brawl is going to be implemented. You can take a look at this if you'd like. It's going to be a fun mode. Usually it takes 8 to 10 minutes from what I've seen, so it's not really a game mode that requires a lot of time. It's even quicker than All Random All Mid even. Champions, Cho'Gath. Its level 1 attack speed is going to be increased by a bit, and this goes well with the E buff, which is not really understood because mid lane Cho'Gath is going to be slightly nerfed because of its Rupture losing some damage, because mid lane Cho'Gath usually maxes Q, so he loses some damage there, despite having a percent AP ratio. But the biggest change is the fact that his E is going to have more damage than before. And I don't like this change because this is mostly an unskilled change for Cho'Gath. E doesn't require any type of skill, and since it gets buffed right when you go into level 3, then it means that it doesn't really make much sense. Before it was going to be 4%. I believe they dropped it by 0.1. I still think it's completely unnecessary. And Cho'Gath is a very niche pick, depending on the compositions and depending on the matchup, mainly into Sion. So I don't really see why they would change it, especially because Cho'Gath is already in a good spot, I would say. Kayn health growth is going down by 6, so he's going to get squishier as long as time goes on. They are mentioning that as of late game is a fine champion, and they are happy with blue-red Kayn switcheroo. I mean, I don't see a lot of Kayn recently, but yeah, they don't want to hurt his weak early game, so they just want to make him more vulnerable later on. Same can be said for Lulu. She's going to drop 0.3 armor growth. The biggest change, of course, is going to be wild growth, because even though you do care about armor growth, as long as she loses some armor in next levels, she really cares about these 20 seconds, and this gives a bigger window, despite going to the same direction than before, when you max it by level 16. So they back-to-back nerfed Lulu like 3 or 4 patches in a row, and I don't really understand why. I mean, there are some enchanters that are in a good spot as well, so repeatedly being nerfed is a bit weird considering that she already got a good hit in the past few patches. Now, Fiddlesticks does deserve the nerf because the fear duration has been one of the main problems that Fiddlesticks has been abusing, mainly in bot side, because you can just max this, long time of fear, and now you will lose some of that duration. I do like the change. They're reducing by 0.05, and then it goes into 0.25 later on, and the damage is also going to be decreased by 1% in early, and then it drops all the way to 3% in comparison to before. But the twist is that now we get 1% per 100 AP, which means that eventually, if you're playing jungle Fiddlesticks or something like this, you will get your damage back, and you cannot say the same about Fiddlesticks support, because they're trying to max AP ratios, because Fiddlesticks support doesn't get as much resources. So they're looking to make Fiddlesticks not as abusable in bot side. That's what they're looking to do. Damage per second also, they're trying to do the same. Keep in mind this is per second, so plus 5% AP per second is a considerable change for his W. So yeah, basically a nerf for all around, but mainly Fiddlesticks support being hit with this change. And of course, this helps jungle Fiddlesticks. Pack damage, monster damage multipliers drop by 20%. I mean, once again, Naafiri is being nerfed, so I believe that Riot should just revert the change at some point, because the pick is either going to be heavily obnoxious or it's not going to be playable. So they want to reduce her jungle clear, and when it comes to competitive, jungle clear is extremely important. So I believe that this is enough to drop her play rate or her popularity by a lot, because despite still being a strong champion when she hits certain levels, the fact that she gets her clear speed affected by this will reduce her popularity and the way that people will draft Naafiri around competitive. Senna. So Riot is doing the typical change where they want to play Senna back into the fasting or AD Senna, basically. So her crit chance per 20 sacks is going to go by 2%, up by 2%. And soul drop rate, I mean, it's going to 14. I think this is the highest value of percentage she's ever had. But this is the typical Riot change that eventually they will drop this to 8% in the future when Senna is just too much of a viable champion for a long time. Her Q is also going to drop when it comes to healing, just to try to balance her Enchanterish variant iteration to be more popular on where they want her to be played the most, which is going to back to this type of archetype per se. Smolder Q damage per stack is going up by 0.1. 0.1 per stack is huge, I would say, mainly because of the Q burn damage per 100 stacks. It goes up by 0.1%. And E hit damage per stack is not going to be as big of a change, but this is a 25% buff and this is a 20% buff. So a big change for Smolder. I do believe that it will get his win rate increased, but it doesn't solve the initial problem of the champion. So of course you can try to scale with Smolder and try to pray for a good mid-game transition. But this is a step where maybe you will get some win rate increase for sure. Vault Breaker, Vi, I mean, she's one of the most broken champions and she has been in the meta for a long time, so her Q minimum damage is going to be decreased, not only in base value but also in bonus AD, because people are abusing. I mean, if you saw Boss playing this and other junglers, they like to go collector. They like to abuse how much bonus AD you can get from it. So they're trying to reduce not only the base values, but also the percentage values. For example, this one, the maximum damage is being increased in base value, but it's going to be decreased in the bonus AD value. So it's obviously a nerf in this matter. Cooldown refund when cancelled is now more responsive, and Relentless Force, the fixed the bug for 100% AD of the intended 75% all AD. So there was a moment where it was giving 100% instead. Seasoned Assist is now going to cost flat meta, and they're trying to adjust this basically and giving a small nerf when it comes to this damage. I do think Vi is still going to be played with her bruiserish approach. However, I do believe that obviously Lethality Vi, or the more aggressive type of Vi that was built, and I don't think it's really normal to do, yeah, it will obviously get nerfed, and it wasn't healthy for the game at least. Xin Zhao, this is like 2% nerf, I would say, because one thing is to reduce armor growth on a champion like Lulu. She's a range champion, she's an enchanter, but when you reduce armor growth into a Xin Zhao, he's a melee champion, he's more exposed. He usually fights versus junglers that are going to be physical damage, because you either match Xin Zhao with Pantheon, Wukong, Nocturne, Naafiri, Vi, whatever it is. So he will be more vulnerable, and 0.6 armor per level is a way of dropping 1 to 2% both in pro and solo queue. Obviously in solo queue it's going to decrease, and Xin Zhao has been one of the most priority champions as well. I'm not sure why they are doing this to Yuumi, but sure, it doesn't really do much. Items, Bloodletter's Curse. AP is going up by 5, HP is going up by 50. Max rate is still 30%, and now it stacks quicker, because instead of 5% with 6 stacks, now you can get it by 4 stacks, pretty much. So it applies a lot quicker. The value remains the same, so this will be a much more interesting option in comparison to what it is currently, because you needed 6 stacks before, and you would get less stats from it. So this item will be in a much better spot, surely. Cryptbloom. I mean, this item has completely disappeared because Void Staff is still completely outshining. And AP is going up by 15. AP ratio is going to drop by 5%. So the healing and the recipe, it goes from Blighting Jewel, Finished Codex to another Finished Codex and 200 gold. So the build path is going to be better, for sure, because of a double Finished Codex. But the cost being increased, it's still... I don't think it's I don't think it's good enough because yes, you get more AP and the build path is better, but Void Staff is just simply a better item and it's even cheaper. Void Staff costs 2.9k, I do believe. Even if it is 3k or whatever, it still outperforms Cryptbloom most of the time. So Cryptbloom was supposed to be like the ability aced type of Void Staff for ability aced champions, but everyone is just taking Void Staff for obvious reasons. Rocketbelt, this item has been in a weird spot as well. So they're trying to amp up AP by 10, HP dropped by 50, ability aced up by 5. Alternator, Fiendish Codex, Ruby Crystal. I mean, it's a bit better than doing Kindle Gem, to be honest, because doing Fiendish Codex and Ruby Crystal gives a lot more life to the item, to the components. Cost going up by 50, it's still a cheap item. We don't care about the 50 gold, so the build path will be better. It will give more stats. They don't care much about AP. I mean, assassins do care about AP, but they care more about ability haste, ability power, and the recipe. So I think it's a good change for Rocketbelt for the champions that are intended to do them, obviously. Horizon Focus, it's going to give 110 AP. Recipe, Fiendish Codex. Okay, so basically, you want pure penetration, you go Shadow Flame. You want pure AP with ability haste, you do Horizon Focus, because the hyper shot damage amp is just removed. The cost is going to be increased, but if you want to go for ability haste, and if you want to play for ability haste, you should go for Horizon Focus instead of Shadow Flame. Burst type of champions that don't care about spell rotation and spamming too much, however, they can go for Shadow Flame if they're looking for bursty type of rotations. No longer the case if you're going Horizon Focus for the most part. Liandry's dropped by 10 AP. I mean, yeah, it's deserved. I think Liandry's is broken because of its passive. Mainly because it can stack with Riftmaker in a lot of champions like Rumble, like Cassiopeia as well, like Vladimir, and stuff like that. Lich Bane, one of the biggest winners of the patch, and you might think it's weird to say it because it loses 15 AP, but the fact is that the recipe is now going to be different. So now it's going to be Sheen, Either Wisp, and Blasting Wand, okay? Not the best, but better than waiting for a needlessly large rot in comparison to before. And now the total cost gold will be 2.9. So it drops by 300 gold, much cheaper option. You lose 15 AP, but the build path is slightly better. And you can get it a lot quicker. So this is a fine change for a lot of champions as well that want to build this item. And yeah, I think it suits well because Lich Bane was way too expensive. And this recall was completely awkward because you wouldn't want a Either Wisp and you don't really want Sheen. So the obvious option is going to be the battle between Blasting Wand and Either Wisp as well because of the movement speed. Luden's companion total cost is going to be dropped by 100. I don't think this is the way you want to tweak the item because making it cheaper doesn't solve the problem. I do believe that they should look to make a shift in some of the stats because right now we are also going to have like a Seraph change that is going to nerf slightly the mage orientation, and they want to buff Malignance, for example. But they need to change this because despite being cheaper, the stats just don't feel good in comparison to other options, or as the item was before, for example. Morello, no one cares. No one should build this item unless it's last item, and if you really need to keep the Grievous Wounds. Nashor's Tooth is going to be dropped by 100, also will Rabadon's, so they want to make mage items a bit cheaper, as we can see. Seraph's Embrace, Lifeline Shield. Okay, so this makes some sense because champions like Orianna, champions like Syndra, champions that really do not fit in the criteria or archetype of having a shield within an item like this, they shouldn't receive it. Champions like Ryze, champions like Kassadin, they do make more sense. Champions like Cassiopeia, for example. And if you're Cassiopeia, if you're Ryze, if you're Kassadin, you will be in a good spot because this is 18% and you lose a 200, but you will have the shield of your maximum mana instead. Ryze, Cassiopeia, and Kassadin use a lot of mana, so if you have half of your mana bar, you will still get the full 18%. So champions that stack a lot of mana, they will really like this change, but champions like Orianna, Syndra, this is a very noticeable nerf for these type of champions. Which, with this type of buffs, when it comes to Lich Bane, when it comes to Rocketbelt, it emphasizes a mid lane meta where assassin mids with AP, they can look to be more approachable when it comes to solo queue even. Stormsurge is also going to be reduced by 100 gold. Move speed up. I mean, Akali is really loving this patch, not gonna lie. Ryze likes this, Cassiopeia likes this, Kassadin likes this, but Akali loves these changes, mainly. Runes, Unsealed Spellbook, base recharge cooldown, 5 minutes to 4 minutes, and recharge cooldown. I mean, you can have it more frequently, so you don't have many champions that want to go with this rune, but still, it has been completely absent. I do believe that this rune option will appear in a niche approach. But the other runes will still obviously outclass in general, and this will be more of a limited option in comparison to the others. Mythic Shop, bug fixes, and that's it. Apparently, we are going to have Stargazer Vex, Ainun Yorick, and Blood Moon Rise. Remember, Brawl is coming, so let's do a really quick TLDR. Cho'Gath, basically a mid lane nerf, top lane buff eventually because you get more damage. Doesn't really make much sense because it's an unskilled change. Also because the attack speed is being buffed. Kayn, really small nerf to the champion. Lulu has been repeatedly nerfed and I don't think it's going to do much as well. The thing that hurts the most is plus 20 seconds initially. Fiddlesticks support is going to pretty much disappear. It was really obnoxious. I do believe that it can be played in jungle, but people don't really want to take the risk and learn the champion, so I do believe that his play rate will still be heavily low, and only Inspired will play this champion in competitive sometimes. Naafiri, she's going to drop a lot in popularity, I do believe. But she will still be picked once in a while as a responsive option. I do think that Riot should revert the changes, and the fact that they're reducing her clear speed, I mean, in competitive, it matters a lot. So I do think that she will clearly drop in popularity. Senna, they want to make her identity come back a little bit and make it more balanced between Enchanter option or fasting Senna with AD build, so they're increasing crit chance and soul drop. Smolder, it will be a fine change, but it doesn't solve the main problem. Is early vulnerability doesn't really solve this. Yes, you can play Smolder into really free matchups and try to scale quicker. This will increase his win rate, but it's not a huge change, I would say. Vi, huge nerf for lethality build. Breezer Vi will be fine, so she will still be viable in competitive. Xin Zhao, a big hit. I would say it's 1 to 2% nerf for Xin Zhao overall. Yuumi, I don't know why. Items Bloodletters will be a better item because now it stacks quicker and it gives more stats. Cryptbloom, I mean, it gets a buff or an adjustment per se because healing is going to be reduced, but the increase is going to be increased and you still prefer Void Staff in comparison to most options. Rocketbelt will be in a better spot than before, despite increasing 50 gold, it gives more stats. Horizon Focus, it's literally a battle between Shadow Flame if you don't need the haste and if you want to burst, and Horizon Focus if you want to have spell rotation within your abilities if you're an ability ace type of champion. Liandry's, it needed the nerf, but I think it should take another direction when it comes to percentage HP and stacking items like Rift Maker. Lich Bane, much better spot, mainly for assassin APs that want to take this early on, for jungle, also for mid lane, and champions like Echo, Diana, Akali will really like this. Gwen, for example. So yeah, big change for Lich Bane. Despite losing AP, it gets a lot cheaper and the build path is a lot better. Ludens, I think they should take a different direction, but they're trying to make mage items cheaper. Malignance is increased by 5. Morello, no one fucking cares. And the rest, yeah. Seraph is going to be good for Ryze. Cassiopeia, Kassadin, big nerf for the other champions like Orianna, Syndra, Talia. Champions that used to do Seraphs are now going to be having a much lower shield in comparison to before. And Stormsurge is going to be better because it gives more movement speed and the total cost is now reduced. However, the movement speed on Squall is now removed, which is why this is being increased. And the gold is also removed. Unsealed Spellbook will still appear not as often, It didn't appear at all recently, but I do believe that it will be an occasional option and situational option for some of the champions when they don't have any other rune to take in their selection. So yeah, that's it for the patch 25.10. We'll be back for 25.11. I don't think this patch changes a lot, to be honest. Very small changes. So we'll see how Riot will do in the next 2 weeks as well.